Hello everybody and welcome back to You Can't Win. This is Tom here and I'm joined by Dawn as usual. Today we're talking with our old friend Big Keven. You guys who are longtime listeners may remember him from an early episode. We talked about like improv and Alaska a little bit. And today we're going to be talking about what he's been getting into over the COVID period. I think that he's been getting into stocks and trading and been hiding out in Alaska. So, yeah. Welcome back, Kev.
Hi, glad to be back. Glad you could have me. I am a stocksman now. I'm fantastically wealthy. It's been a good couple of years.
Sure. So what is the situation right now in Alaska with like COVID and whatnot? Like, are you sort of out in the country and stuff? And is it like, I have no idea what's going on there. So yeah.
This is kind of interesting timing for that because it's very bad up here right now. We've been spiking very heavily the last couple of weeks. Not as much where I am, Fairbanks, but the Anchorage area has been very bad, and Fairbanks isn't great. This is a very red state. There's a lot of vax holdouts. And the reality is it never got that bad up here just because of the sheer spread outness of it. So I think a lot of people got lazy and got kind of complacent with it and stuff, and the Delta spreads easier, and it's kind of hitting a lot of people right now. So it's gotten kind of rough. It's gotten kind of scary. But the reality is it's still Alaska. You're just not around that many people.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have to like take a lot of different precautions and stuff like that at work and things like that, or no? Like
work, we just went back to we're like work from home first again,
Sure.
which they wanted to avoid, but we're back to that again. I actually just recently I just got a test a couple days ago because I got I was exposed. I was negative, but it's definitely going around. So I went to work from home for 3-4 days, and now I'm back in the office, and it's not the end of the world, but it's still out there.
Sure. Yeah.
They closing down small businesses, restaurants, and that kind of stuff?
Oh, at this point, no. And it's not going to happen. There's no, like I said, it's a red state. There's no, will for it.
Kind of like a Texas kind of attitude about it.
Yeah, kind of. Like where I am here, there is kind of a hippie granola community because it is kind of a college town, in addition to a military town and an oil town. So, there's definitely people who care a lot, but by and large, people aren't that. It's not a priority for people.
Your classic hippie oil military town.
It is. It's kind of, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Banshee, but it's kind of like the town in Banshee where it just has just some random eclectic industry.
What is like weather like at this time of the year up there? Is it already getting...
Once again, interesting timing. We just got probably 6 inches of snow today. First storm of the year. Very cold. A little unseasonably too. Typically you wouldn't see this for another week or two.
Wow, what is it up there right now? It's like 70 here. It's beautiful.
It's I'm gonna verify via phone. It says 32 right now. And it was blizzarding all day. It's currently blizzard / freezing raining, so it's getting worse.
Oh man. That's crazy. It'll probably get cold here soon then too, I guess.
Yeah, well, not to get too out of my lane, but I heard that it's going to be a cold winter. They got whatever that thing is, it's sitting right on top of us. So supposedly it's going to be a cold winter.
All right. Cool.
I know. If you guys want to talk about the weather some more.
Sure.
Yeah, we can move on. So let's talk about this trading stuff that you've been doing. So how did that start?
Basically, like I think a lot of people are in the same boat where it just became this situation where there's nothing to do during COVID. You don't have anything to spend money on. So if you have any money, it's like, well, might as well start playing with this stuff, because I don't know if you guys are stocks guys at all. And Tom, I know you do crypto. But of course, we had a big crash with the COVID thing, but then it was, just rocketed after. So I think a lot of people started trying to get into it then. And I made a lot of money that summer, and I didn't have anything to spend it on. So I said, okay, I'd always just passively invested, which is smart, by the way. I mean, I'd recommend that to anybody. But I said, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of active investing. And what I picked for my first thing was NIO, the Chinese car company.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys know it?
That was hot for a minute. Did you catch that?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Nice.
So I rode that from 20 something to 40 something. And then I had this pile of money and I didn't know what to do with it. And then I started reading stuff about GameStop.
Oh, yeah.
And the funny thing about GameStop at that time is nobody knew what it turned into. It was just a lot of people had basically bet it'd go bankrupt over the summer. It got down to $4 or $5 a share, and people were basically just betting it was going to go bankrupt. But the reality is all the new consoles were coming out, all that stuff. They kind of just had to hang on for a little bit, and they managed to hang on. And it looked like a good opportunity to me. And I got into it at like $14 a share, I think. And my feeling was, this is probably a $50 stock. Maybe in a couple years I can sell this for $50. I didn't think it was going to be what it was.
What is it right now? It's like 100, 200 or something?
I haven't looked in a while, but it's been hovering around 200-ish for a long, long time now. There's a lot of factors that hold it there.
177 right now.
So that's a little low, actually. That's I think it bled out the last week. We just had a pretty bad week. But
peaked around 230 lately, but it's gone up to I think it went 450 or something at some point.
Yes, yeah. So that's the thing. It started going up and started going up. And then it had 2 spike days back to back. And on that first day, it went to around 450, 470 something, I think, when it halted. And after that, it crashed. That was where people went out, and that was where a lot of the online brokerages and stuff made it so you couldn't buy it; you could only sell it. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of some hinky stuff. But by the way, like that's one thing about stocks. Like you're a guppy swimming in the ocean. Like you're gonna get screwed like that. There's nothing you can do about that. That stuff happens. Mm-hmm. But so I was sitting there on that first day. It was at 400 something. I don't want to say how much money I had because it's embarrassing how much money it is. But I was like, okay, I can't just look at this. I'm going to go for a walk. So I went out. I went to a walk. I was walking in the park like I did at the time. And then I looked at my phone again, and it was under 200.
Oh, really?
And it's kind of I don't know how I can describe this to somebody who hasn't experienced it. I lost basically in the course of walking from my apartment to a park, like around $1 million, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like in a period of like 20, 25 minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And doing nothing too. That's the crazy thing. It's just time passed and it.
Yeah. 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 No, yeah. I'm sure you know about it a little bit, Tom, if you're in crypto, because that's all very volatile.
I mean, GameStop has been probably like at the upper levels of even like crypto volatility. Like that spike day, I think it went like 100x or something, which is, you see it in crypto, but that's still like a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially in one day. That's crazy.
But I mean, in like in the work I do, like I'm in charge of millions of dollars, and so when I started doing this thing, I was like, what do I care about numbers? Like I deal with these kind of numbers all the time. It turns out it feels a little different when it's your money.
Sure. Yeah.
But I can't. I wish I could give you a better description of what it felt like in that moment, but I just can't. Like it just defies words. Like sure. It was just heart dropped into the stomach type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, I finished my walk, and by the end of the walk, I was like, well, I guess that's it. I guess we're done. And then of course the next day it spiked again, and I was kind of done with that. I got out of it the next day.
Sure. Yeah.
So I could have done better, but I did pretty well. I think I hit like 3 something that day. And of course,
I mean, you get out of something like that alive. That's good. Like if you catch any of that like upwards movement, and I think that's pretty good.
Well, the thing is, it's like, I couldn't lose at that point because, like I said, I got in at 14. But the people who lost were there's all these people who got in at 300, 400, 200. And they've just turned into a cult now, and they're still there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and I can understand what they're thinking. Like from between that first day and between when I sold, like, I mean, you kind of just drive yourself crazy with that stuff, and I feel really bad for those people, but they're just. I know what's trapping them there. I know what's keeping them in that mental space, and it's really hard to get out of that.
Mm-hmm. Do you sort of follow the same sort of like what are your sort of resources that you lean on to make decisions?
So I'm on Fidelity now, and they have a desktop app. It's called Active Trader Pro. That's a pretty good app for tracking stuff. So that's primarily what I use for that. Their mobile app's a lot better than it used to be, so I can check price on that and stuff. Basically, like, you can follow other people or you can find your own plays. And if you're following other people, there's a lot of good resources out there, but I kind of I wouldn't be confident giving you a resource. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just I mean, more like, are you following the meme stuff like on Reddit or something like that too, or are you're trying to do your own thing now?
Oh yeah, I mean, I still look at the Reddits, not Wall Street Bets. Don't ever look at that now. I mean, if you want to laugh, you can look at it, but it's completely unusable as a resource at this point.
Sure.
But there's a bunch of stock focused Reddits. There's a bunch of people on Twitter. There's a bunch of you can even go on StockTwits, although you really got to be careful on there. There's a lot of we were talking about baseball a little bit before we started. I mean, people on there treat stocks like baseball. It's just people in there being like, "Boo, this thing sucks," or "Yeah, it's going to go to 100 today, guys."
Yeah.
Which, so you got to be real careful. There's a lot of the thing is, there's a lot of people who are trying to like give you bad information, and then there's a lot of people who are they're not trying to give you bad information, but they don't care if they give you good information. They're just trying to make content,
Right.
So
They're making like big calls, and then some of them hit, and a week later they can be like, "See, called it just like I predicted," right? But it's like 5%, 10% of their tweets are ever right.
Yeah, there's people who'll give like, okay, these are my 10 plays for the week at the beginning of the week, and at the end of the week they're saying, if you followed me on this one play, it'd be up 300%. And it's like, well, you don't really care how any of those plays did. You're monetizing. Your presence is what you're actually doing.
Yeah, crypto Twitter is the exact same thing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and it's all. I mean, especially when you start looking at those micro caps, and I assume it's the same in some of those altcoins. Like, I mean, it literally is just people pumping, dumping. You know.
Yeah.
They just got in at 3 cents and they want to get out at 7 cents and they're trying to pump it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's good information out there, but you need like a good basis in yourself and your own understanding to make use of it, because there's a ton. It's like anything else. Like 90% of the stuff out there sucks.
Yeah. And so I know you have like a background in sort of, management and doing stuff around that, but like, do you, did you have to sort of like teach yourself certain additional trading skills and stuff? And how did you end up doing that?
Oh yeah. Kind of the more technical stuff. There's a lot of good resources online. As far as like technical analysis type of stuff. And that stuff, some people don't like it. I think it's pretty useful for kind of trying to time bottoms and see if there's a reversal coming and that kind of stuff. But I've had some people ask me for advice on this stuff, and more than any particular kind of strategy or technique or anything like that. There's kind of those older school books, like A Random Walk Down Wall Street, and I forget the name of the other one. It's going to drive me crazy now. But there's these older books that are kind of just about the process of trading, like Warren Buffett's the Berkshire Hathaway Company letters. And the stuff about that is, what I'm saying is less copy their strategies, because their strategies a lot of time don't make sense because bonds aren't worth anything anymore, and interest rates are nothing and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of it's based around that kind of stuff a little bit more than you can do these days. But it's all about like mentality and attitude. And actually knowing what your tolerances are, and actually knowing what you're after, and actually knowing what you want. Having a good sense of yourself in that way. There's a lot of things you can do that will make you money, but you will lose money on all of them if you if you panic or if you're not disciplined, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any kind of system that you use for trading, or do you just sort of buy when it feels low, sell when it feels high?
Yeah, I use a little bit of technical analysis type of stuff to kind of time low points. I'm notoriously bad at holding past. I hold past the top quite frequently. I'm working on that now. But in general, what I do is just, find a thesis, research your thesis, and if it makes sense, buy. Which is super, super broad, but it's really the best advice I can give you.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of stuff is, if you're the kind of guy who would listen to this podcast, I think you might be better than you think, because it is like, if you're good at video games, it's the same skills. Like if you like strategy games.
Yeah, that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
It feels a lot like a game.
Yeah. No, if you like to read, like, great, start reading some, some company press releases and stuff. Like, figure this stuff out. If you're an academically minded person, create a thesis around where you think the market's going to go and why, and then put $100 on it and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I threw my stimulus check into the crypto markets. When you were talking about that GameStop day that you had where you like lost $1 million,
Mm-hmm.
I sort of know a little bit what that feels like, I think, because I ran up my stimmy to like 4K and I didn't sell because I thought this thing was going further, but that was just like the top. And this was like a week or maybe 2 weeks before there was like a crypto crash in May. So that 4K was like 1K after that crash. And I sold like half of it before then, but like it was still a big loss. So I was like, okay, well, this is how this goes. Number looks big and you want it to get bigger, but that's when you need to cash out.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm struggling with recently. Like I just had a play last month that, again, I don't want to get numbers because I don't want to be bragging, but I made a good chunk of money on it, but I could have made twice that money if I just timed the top properly, but I held past it. So I was like, well, it could keep going up.
Yeah.
Do you have like peers that you sort of rely on with trading stuff, like that you chat back and forth about, or like have some sort of formal relationship with, or is it just kind of just doing your own thing?
I kind of just do my own thing. I wouldn't mind being a part of one of those communities, but it's just not something I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is I've gotten back into active trading a little bit, but I kind of let it drop over the summer because I was working.
Sure.
Okay, so you're not trying to swing this into like a full-time job or anything like that?
Well, we'll see. We'll see how I have a number of things that kind of my horizon for them is in the early spring type of time. So we'll see what happens with that. And if it goes well, I might be gloating a bit on Twitter. So watch out for that.
All right.
Okay. Sure. And
then we're talking about no job Kevin, huh?
That's right. Yeah, I used to be Kevin from work. Now I'm Kevin from not at work.
So are you also looking long term to maybe move or something like that, or like again, or are you just kind of doing your thing for now?
I'm gonna be here in Alaska over the winter, certainly. I may or may not work my job again in the spring. I might be heading back to New York. We'll see.
Okay. Cool. And
are taxes good for you up there as far as like, capital gains and all that kind of stuff? I don't know if that differs state to state, but
yeah, Alaska is a no income tax state.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, there's no estate tax here, and New York has both city and state tax, and also New York taxes all capital gains as ordinary income.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It makes sense. They got
Sure.
Wall Street there, but
Yeah.
wasn't to my favor.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm just sorry. I'm imagining the difference there on a large amount of money paying, I don't know. Yeah, 45, 50%
it actually,
or something or more.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it used to be, we were talking about the weather. Let's talk about some more boring stuff. Trump got rid of what they call the SALT deduction, which was for city and state taxes. You could get a good chunk of that deducted from your federal taxes. And Trump got rid of that because most of, the cities that have high state and city taxes are blue cities. So it's actually a lot worse than it used to be.
Well, draining the swamp,
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I don't agree with everything he did.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have a Republican governor there? Is that how that works? Like, I don't know Alaska. You said red state, but is it like...
They have a Thane, I think, something like that.
Yeah, his name is Thane Drogo. The taxes are low. We have to sacrifice 2 to 4 people a year to him. It depends on how the year goes, how many it's going to be. But ultimately, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
No, it's historically a pretty red state, and it's pretty. It's always been, even before kind of the Trump stuff and the Ron Paul stuff, it was always very libertarian red. So there's some real kooks. And it's kind of, as a state, it's coasting on fumes a little bit. And so it's always a big fight about what happens with the oil money. And they have what's called the permanent fund dividend, which is where the historic oil money went into the market with. And so it's always a big fight about how we fund stuff and all that kind of stuff. And they threaten to shut down the government every year. It's pretty typical red state stuff at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only stuff I know about Alaska comes from stuff that like Doug Stanhope has said about performing there and stuff. That's about it. So that's all the flavor I've gotten. And I don't know.
That's kind of a funny thing about the state is it's very, very small and very remote, but it's also kind of exciting and romantic. So you get like most of the big acts come through there at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a nice place to go. Like if you get the opportunity, why not?
Yeah, I highly recommend it to anybody. We need tourism back.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about how it's sort of like libertarian red, and that there's a lot of kooks and stuff. Is that fun? Like, do you meet like interesting people regularly, or is it just kind of like just weird people that you don't really want to talk to and stuff?
Well, it's I forget if I said I work civil construction, so I work very remote sometimes, and they have what they call end of the roaders, which is kind of people who you just keep going until you run out of places to go, basically, and then they end up in these places like Manly or these tiny little communities out in the middle of nowhere, and they're how can I say this? They're genuine weirdos. They're like real deal. They're like movie quality weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds cool.
They can be fun. You just don't want to like get them too entwined with you.
Right. Keep them at a distance. Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of funny when you go out in these remote communities because it's like half it'll be these kind of people, just these absolute, probably living off a moose they shot. Nothing to their name, have a trailer and a boat type of people. And then the other half is people who have mining claims out there or people who own land out there and just ridiculously wealthy, just flying on their cub type of people. So it's an interesting clash sometimes.
Mm-hmm. What's the weirdest person you've met?
What's the weirdest person I met? I had somebody try and bury a dog in the road we were building while we were building it. And here's the thing, it's one of these hippie guys who does these hippie tours. So not only is he trying to bury the dog in the road while we're trying to work there, and we're like, he can't do that. He's trying to hold like a denominational, all-face funeral service for the dog at the same time.
That's good.
Okay. Why was there a reason he wanted to bury the dog at the road? Did you find that out?
We were up on the Dalton Highway, which is the ice road of ice road truckers fame. It was summer, so it wasn't froze, but the thing about that is you go off the road and it's all very, very thick tundra. You can't actually dig in it, or you can, but it's a lot of work. It's all very swampy tundra. So it's like he was like, no matter what you believe, this and doing this, but really he's doing it because he's being lazy. Like it's the easy place to do.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Do I have any other good stories? I don't know. Very heavy, kind of the typical country boy stuff. A lot of mudding and hunting and fishing and that kind of stuff. That's not really weird. That's just That's just cultural.
Do you do any of that kind of stuff, or?
Oh, I fish a little bit and I hunt a little bit, but not really. I hike a lot. I'm not necessarily morally opposed to it, but if you shoot a moose, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm too lazy for the hunt.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, and these days I'm a little more. I'm too cosmopolitan for Alaska, and I'm too redneck for New York, but I prefer New York.
Mm-hmm. Have you thought? I guess yeah. You already sort of answered this, but like, have you thought of buying property somewhere, or?
I have thought about buying a house up here. It's relatively affordable, but I don't know if you guys are watching the housing market. I know in Canada it's been crazy for a while, but it's been pretty hot this year. This probably isn't the best time to buy.
Yeah.
And New York, I don't think I'd ever buy in New York because I don't know. I feel like it'll be underwater, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe. I know here in Chicago there was a lot of like downtown condos and stuff that were really cheap. They were like going like half off or like 33% off, like these deep discounts because of like working from home and stuff. There's like a law that people have to live in the unit that they own. You can't just like buy it, like or whatever. It has to be like your own residence. So a lot of people were, moving out of the city because of COVID, and since they haven't come back yet, there's just so much supply that is much larger than the demand. So there's a lot of these downtown apartments that are just cheap.
Yeah, that happened in Manhattan as well, but I think it's kind of sprung back. I think prices are going back up again.
All right, that might be the case in Chicago too. I haven't looked at it in a minute.
But yeah, it was. I left because I had my reasons to leave, but I'd kind of be looking at prices there and be like, I don't know, like I could have got 3 months off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be a funny thing kind of moving forward is, how that work from home stuff shakes out. And, especially in cities like that where it's kind of, if you get a job at Google, like part of the perk of working at Google is you get to be, in Manhattan, and like you don't need to be in Manhattan anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be pretty sweet to like live in some like small town or whatever where things are cheap and getting paid big city bucks, Pretty good deal.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll take it if anybody's offering.
Yeah, I have to. I keep thinking about this because I'm like, I have to figure out maybe some niche or something where I'm like, because I don't know, I have a lot of like mental problems that make it hard for me to work and stuff. I just like find it hard to just do anything. But like, I always think like right now would be the perfect time to try something or whatever because it's like high demand for workers in a lot of different areas, and then also work from home kind of stuff where it's like, and I don't mean like a full-time kind of like big thing, but like I feel like there's some sort of timing there where it's like there might be something that fits well kind of thing or something. So I don't know, I should look around at some of that and stuff, but it's one of those things where I'd have to like build the relationship or something like that to actually do it.
Sure.
But like I feel like there's probably something there where I could like make a fair amount of money doing that kind of thing. So yeah,
there's probably something out there for you. You're a smart guy. You're a good writer. I don't see why you couldn't find something.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But yeah,
that does remind me of a crazy person story though.
Oh yeah.
So speaking of like not having enough people, so at my job this spring they hired essentially everybody that applied, and they still didn't have enough people. It's practice. They interview 2 people for 1 hire. This time they just hired everybody. And one of those people didn't make it to work because he and his girlfriend tried to kill his girlfriend's mom, and now he's in jail.
Oh,
that's good.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, I think the quality control is slipping a little bit. And if that guy can get a job, Donald, I think you can probably get a job.
Sure. Yeah, that's good.
He's giving you a pep talk.
Yeah.
just don't try to kill anybody, I guess. That seems to be a...
Oh, sorry. Let me be very clear. I'm against murder.
Sure. Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about was you mentioned that I was into crypto and stuff. So I was just wondering what your view on the crypto markets is. Not necessarily like the technology itself, but just like, I've talked to you a little bit about this in DMs and stuff, and you mentioned that it was like too volatile or something. Is that how you feel about it?
Yeah, I just don't trust it. Like it feels 100% speculation to me. The thing about stock is like at some point you feel like it's based on something somewhere.
Yeah.
Crypto, I just don't see that. It's just 100%. It's like collectibles, you know. It's just all speculation. It's all, you know, bigger fool theory type of stuff. And there's a lot of money to be made in it. People make a lot of money in it, but I don't trust it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's not wrong.
Also, the other thing I would say is, like when you're actively trading, it's pretty intense and it sucks up a lot of time and energy and thought and all that kind of stuff. And crypto never closes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 24/7.
So sometimes it's kind of nice when the market closes. You're like, all right, I can go eat now.
Yeah, it also kind of gives you like a pivot around the weekend. In crypto, the weekends are slower. So you get a lot of weird price action, you know, like it might be bleeding all week and then have this weird pump out of nowhere on the weekends. And a lot of people kind of know like weekends are weird, don't put too much into it, but there's just enough people that look at that and like, oh, price is going up, time to buy. It just kind of like messes with things when there's like there's not enough like volume to really like justify the move, you know? So it like often if it pumps over the weekend, it'll get sold in too hard on Monday. Because there's also like CME that trades Bitcoin, and that seems to actually be one of the bigger, like determining players and everything.
I see. Oh, I just remembered reminiscences of a stock operator.
I was thinking that might be the book. I remember it was something about stock operator. I didn't remember the rest of it. I've heard of that.
That's the other one I kind of recommend. And again, the actual stock advice in it is like 80 years out of date, but the mentality stuff is evergreen. And like really critical, I think.
That like mentality stuff is funny to me because like I started like listening to podcasts and watching like I call them chart boys on YouTube and stuff just to kind of keep up on this stuff. And every once in a while they get to talking about this sort of thing, and once you have like some experience with this, it kind of starts to click and you understand why they're talking about this and how it's actually relevant. It's not just like success win mindset stuff necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of that too, but it's true though. Like your mental state matters a lot because that's essentially what you're playing against yourself almost, you know?
Yes, it's 100%. It's yeah, I mean, you can straight up make a bad pick, and that happens. But once you get that stuff down, like your losses are going to be, you're going to lose to yourself every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once you're not just like fumbling, making complete rookie mistakes and stuff.
Yeah, once you're not like, Walmart's big, I'll buy Walmart.
Yeah.
Do you have like risk management sort of stuff in place that you've developed like in some ways, or you just kind of eyeball it, kind of a lot of this stuff?
I don't like using like stop losses. I don't think those are a good idea most of the time. I do have kind of rules I use for, like I said, that last play, if I sold out at the top, I would have got twice. Well, I sold some of it before the top to the point where like that could have gone to zero and I'd already locked in a profit. So you need to set something like that. And it depends on what you're doing, if you're doing option or stock or whatever, but you need to set a rule for yourself of when you start drawing out. And once you start doing that and you do it all the time, it just becomes what you do,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets easier. You're not, you can leave a little in to gamble with, but you don't think about it. You just do it because it's what you do.
Yeah, a little bit of a system. Yeah, I like to sell like a third of whatever bag I have on something as soon as I see like a reasonable, like my first TP, like take profit level. Sell a
Yeah,
third without even thinking about it, see what plays out, and then like maybe leave like 10% in once I'm like, okay, I know it's not going to this is like a good place to take profit. Maybe it goes up more, but that's what that 10% is for. Like I
sure.
want to lock in profits for the majority of it. That was a big mistake that I made early on, was just
Just letting it all ride. Yeah.
yeah, just hoping to like sell it all at whatever. I wasn't even trying to get the top, but just like not thinking in increments, just thinking like buy all in here and then sell all out there, and then kind of realize you don't have to do that.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is every trade you make, have a thesis. Um, if you're like momentum day trading, that's fine, but know then that you're trying to get 20% and get out as fast as you can, and know that, and just get it and go, and don't say, well, it could run further. And on the other hand, if you're saying, well, I think this is a long-term thing, I'm going to hold this 1 year minimum, don't look at it in 6 months and say, damn, I'm down 15%. I got to get out of this. This is a loser. Like, unless that thesis changes, believe in your thesis. You said it's going to be a year. Well, wait a year. you know and are you going to be right like that every time? Well, no, of course not. But if you start giving up on it, well, now you're just fumbling in the dark.
Yeah, and sometimes a buy looks like a bad buy at the time, but if your thesis is that it's going to like double from there or something, then it's a good buy, right? Like you've at least established that it's at like a support, and maybe it looks like a top right now, but that could change. It just depends on
Yeah, it just depends
all
on
kinds of
your
things.
time frame and your mindset and what you think the
Right.
catalysts are going to be. And if those catalysts change, well, then you say, okay, I was wrong, I got to get out of this. But if it doesn't, you don't say, well, it's sitting flat, fuck this. Sorry, can I swear on this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I forgot to ask. But you wait for a material change before you change your behavior. And that goes for selling early, but it also goes for holding too long.
Yeah, opportunity cost and stuff, right? Like there's that kind of meme about like it's not a loss until you sell, but you've locked up money, right? So like at a certain point, if it's invalidated your thesis, you want to sell and move on to something else.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're saying we got what, 5% inflation in the United States right now. Like, even if you're dead flat, you're losing money if your money's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What's your
I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead, Don.
No,
Sorry.
no, go for sure.
What's your like take on like gold and stuff? How do you feel about that? Like you into any of that sort of thing, like gold as a store of value type deal or anything?
No, I don't do commodities a lot, and I think gold has, like, if you look at the chart, it doesn't really, people buy it as a hedge, but it doesn't really seem to operate that way at this point. It
Yeah.
doesn't really seem to inverse the market. So why are you buying it as a hedge then? I think you're better off with, if that's really what you want, is like real estate or something like that. Uh, I am a little I did get sucked into the uranium thing, so we'll see how that goes. But that's the only commodity thing I'm playing.
Okay.
So I for like pretty much for the first time in my life, really, I have like savings now, uh, mostly from just earning a bit here and there from writing and podcasting and stuff,
Sure.
and then living at home. So I'm just I don't have much expenses or anything like that. So I put away some of the money into. We have like a Roth IRA equivalent kind of thing in Canada where, I don't have to pay taxes on anything I earn
It's
and
called
stuff. But
the HSA, right?
it's TFSA in Canada. Yeah,
TFSA.
yeah.
Okay.
And so it's funny because I read a few books about, and I have an economics degree and I've read a few books about passive investing and all that kind of stuff, and not trying to overthink it and stuff like that, just on your basic savings and stuff. And it's funny how many mistakes I made, even knowing, enough about the basics and stuff. just setting things up and doing all the little things and stuff. And I did things like, so I went to go buy just some basic index funds and stuff, and just ETFs. And I didn't think of small things like, okay, it's like an American exchange, so I'm buying with Canadian dollars, so they're going to impose a exchange fee on me and stuff like that. And it was just because I thought what I was doing was so simple that I didn't think of like the little steps in between and stuff like that. That I actually, I'm probably one of the only people that has actually lost money this year on the stock market. It seems like, because I just put it in basic index funds, and just because of the timing of everything and stuff, it was since it's gone down basically. So I'm basically, I've broken even, I guess, a bit, but like just a little bit down, just because of all these fees and stuff that I didn't expect. And I don't know, it was kind of funny just because it's like, okay, well, there's a learning process for everyone, I guess, kind of thing. Like I just kind of have to figure it out and stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I don't know as much about the international, but I know kind of the no fee trading is mostly an American thing, which means that you're a little more incentivized to do a longer term hold. And I guess that's what I'd say about that is if you don't know what you're doing, I mean, yeah, just stick it in that index fund and, who cares what you are right now? I guarantee you'll be up in, 10 years.
Sure.
Like our entire retirement system is based on, we're all in 401ks now. Like it's kind of all too big to fail over the long term, I think. So, and if I'm wrong on that, we got bigger problems. So.
Sure, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
You think the stock market's going to continue to fly? Like it seems like things have kind of I don't know, like there's a little bit of a dip recently.
Yeah, September's been rough. That's kind of historically true as well, though. October is historically a little more mixed. Usually, like November, December, are pretty solid. It's kind of the retail months. You see some growth there typically. Hard to say this year because we're on the bad part of COVID now as far as the stock market goes. Because it's no longer everybody sitting at home just buying shit. Now it's supply chain issues, inflation, all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to say for sure what's going to happen. People are scared about the taper. People are scared about inflation rates. I don't think we're going to see anything on that till next year, and I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. But I don't think we're going to see another year like last year. I mean, that's not the sort of thing that happens that often. So I think we're going to see a little bit more. I think it is going to be more mixed moving forward, but I think for me personally, I'm comfortable with what I'm positioned in for the next year, and then I got some other stuff that has more of a 5 to 10 year.
So you try to build in the macro stuff into your thesis, or is that like a big part of what you're doing, or is that just kind of it's more you're so confident about your picks that you just kind of go with them?
Well, it's kind of like, they joke on Reddit, they say like stocks go up, and it's kind of true, right? Like as long as we have the 401k system, as long as we have, all of these money being pumped into indexes, and as long as growth continues in the United States, like long term, it's going to go up. So long term, there's a lot of good options. But in the shorter term or medium term, it's, how should I say this? It turns out I'm kind of good / lucky at this, but I'm still a very small fish in a very big pond. And so it's really hard for me to look at something like, okay, what's the taper going to do? I don't know.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be that bad, but I could be wrong, and I can't time it well. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't have any insider information. Plenty of people do. And so it comes to this place where, well, I have kind of my underlying thoughts about it. I think ultimately it's healthy. Ultimately it's going to help the market. Ultimately, it's going to get us into a better place. And in the short term, it's going to be a little choppy, but I don't think as bad as people think. So if that's what I think, it's not smart for me to try and time it or make short-term plays around it, or, people say like, well, I'm going to pull all my money out, I'm going to go cash for the rest of the year. Well, that's what I was talking about earlier. Inflation is real. Your cash isn't staying even. Cash is losing money.
Sure.
And I just don't think I have I don't think I know anything more than anybody else in that position. So I don't think it's smart to try and react that heavily to it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the reasons why I actually got into, opening up the account and all that kind of stuff was because my savings account, which was called something, it's called something like maximum booster savings account, like stuff like that, was 0.05% or something like that. So it is one of those things where you're just getting eaten up by inflation at that point kind of thing. But,
well, and that's another reason I'm very long-term bullish. Like right now and for the foreseeable future, there's no other place you can put your money that you can get a return on it. I mean, people don't have a lot of other options. You can go into crypto. If you got a lot of money, you can buy real estate, but it's pretty limited out there. And even when they raise interest rates, we're not talking like 5%,
Sure.
We're talking like, probably less than 1% still.
Sure. Yeah. They're just giving up some of their tools over the time. So just giving themselves more space to act if they need to and stuff. But, so yeah, I guess just a related thing to that kind of thing, like, have you been reading more about like economics in general and stuff and getting into sort of like the more political kind of side of that? I mean, we know each other from forums that were very, I don't know, a lot of political stuff kind of going back and forth and stuff, but has it been like changing your views on a lot of things, or, getting, I don't know, like your success and your sort of knowledge that is growing?
You're registered Republican now?
Yeah, basically. No. But,
yeah, well, I'd say you do think about things a little different when you're the guy they're talking about tax.
Sure.
But, by training, I'm a sociologist, which isn't economics, but I mean, that was always kind of my background and I'm a social science person. That's always how I looked at things.
Mm-hmm.
So the economic stuff directly, I wouldn't say I've gotten more into economics, but it's let me put kind of tools that I've developed into play in that stuff a little more directly, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really interesting to look at the stuff that's happening in China right now, and kind of, look on Reddit or Twitter or web forums and kind of see the surface level stuff people are saying, and kind of, having a sense of like, well, I don't think that's what's going on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that too. I mean, I don't know much about the actual goings on in China and stuff. I just listen to the same things as other people, I guess. But like, the level of debate is hard to manage sometimes and stuff like that. Yeah, with that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, that of people that are still pretty well informed, I would say, compared to like, there's just a lot of schlock now and stuff in the debates. But yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to find stuff that I like these days. And I mean, in general, in my life, I've gotten, less and less political over time, which is, I just don't have the energy for it anymore.
Sure. Yeah. What about comedy stuff? Do you have any energy for that kind of stuff anymore, or how's that going?
Yeah, that was, that's why I want to go back to New York. It's like, they say if you want to succeed at that kind of stuff, you got to be rich to start with, and now I am, so maybe I can make it happen.
Sure, yeah.
The thing about that is I was actually having some success as an actor, because if you know me from Twitter, I'm not huge, but I'm a relatively tall, shaved head white guy, so I was just doing a lot of stuff where I was like white supremacist or police,
Sure.
military, that kind of stuff, and I was working on a very regular basis, and it was getting to the point where it was, I wasn't making great money or anything, but it was starting to feel like something I was actually doing. And then with COVID, all that went away.
Sure.
Because even when they started filming again, they started, rewriting things, and, so instead of being in, we got 30 people in the background, now we're just shooting into a corner and we got 2 people in the scene, So the kind of stuff that for my level kind of went away, but I still love it. I like my friends there. Keep in touch with them. I'm going back in about 3 weeks for just a vacation. That'll be nice. But it's definitely something. It's definitely something I still want to do. And the thing about that kind of stuff is, how do I put this? I was doing the thing I wanted to do, and I'd like to do that thing in front of more people and for more money, but it doesn't change what the thing is. And so I just want to do it, if that makes sense.
No,
yeah,
no,
I get
for
that.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Have you like spent your money in any kind of fun ways? I'm sure you're like
No.
mostly responsible and boring with it, but
I'm disgustingly responsible. In fact, after I made it, I only told one of my friends, and I told him because his wife works for Google, so he also has money, so I didn't have to worry about him being weird about it. But he was like, "Oh man, have you done anything cool?" And I was like, "I might buy an iPhone in the fall."
Oh, really?
I started telling him about my plans, like how I was going to weight it and what stocks I was thinking about and stuff. And he's like, "No, I mean, like, are you going to buy anything?" And I was like, "Well."
What about a
But
big got like that, the Ford, one of the giant ones, whatever, or like trucks, whatever, just like a giant one?
I got to tell you, if I was going to stay around here in Alaska, I would in fact buy a nice F-150.
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm that much redneck.
Well, I live not like, I sort of live on like the edge of like suburb slash rural. Like it's rural area that I live in, but like there's like a town nearby and stuff, so it's not really
Mhm.
fully rural kind of thing. Like I mean, all around me at a lot of the farms and stuff, but it's not like fully. But anyways, everyone here either has a Ford F-150 or like a if they're male, they have like a truck like that. Like a lot of them do, and then if not, then if they're a woman, they have like the big SUVs and stuff. So it's kind of funny, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the F-150s are nice.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason they sell a lot. Those are nice.
Sure.
Those are nice trucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reading an article about it the other day that was saying about like how uh, someone was, I don't know, the context of the story was kind of like the debate of whether or not they should be, they should have all these trucks and stuff. And the guy was saying that he says, I sincerely believe that everyone in Canada should own a truck. And I'm like, okay, well, let's dial it back a bit, but yeah, so.
Well, maybe if you're liberal, you can get one of those tiny little 80s Japanese trucks,
Sure. Yeah.
just as a compromise.
Sure.
Don, you said women tend to have like bigger trucks. Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
they just have SUVs, like sport utility
okay.
vehicles.
Because I was
So.
thinking about that in like the whole like compensation theory. If you have a small dick, you get a bigger truck. And I was like, well, if you have no dick, I guess you gotta get
Okay.
a
Yeah,
really
fair
big
enough.
truck.
The biggest truck. No, you do see like female brodozer drivers up here sometimes, and a lot of times they got like the sticker that's like Alaska girls kick ass, or the I drive like a girl, or so it's like they get the big truck, but they gotta let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't
Gotta put
there
a little
like
bow on it.
isn't like the ratio of like men to women in Alaska really skewed? Like a lot more men? Is that right?
That might be another reason I want to go back to New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of the worst. I think there are worse like cities, but I think state-wise, it's like the worst state in the country for the gender skew. Yeah.
Yeah, is that like noticeable day to day?
I mean, like walking around, not really, but it definitely makes it definitely makes dating a challenge. All right, now we're going to get into the dating portion of the podcast.
Sure. Actually, Tom, do you want to do a few questions or something like that, or?
Yeah, oh yeah. I didn't realize we had done so much time. Yeah, okay. So this first one's just a quick comment. It's ILU Don.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I opened up. People can send me Bitcoin now. Trying to rake in enough money for a house that way somehow. I don't know. No, I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah, so
Yes.
send them your
Don't-
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't really
Yeah.
understand the tipping bit. Like, how many people are trying to send Bitcoin just as like actually use it as currency? It seems like
So
I don't know.
what it is that my account is a Canadian Twitter account kind of thing, technically. So I think that they haven't rolled out a lot of the different, like they haven't rolled out PayPal or any of the other Cash App or anything. Cash App doesn't exist in Canada, but like, I don't think, but like, it just basically there's no, not only that, but my account is also sort of like semi-restricted to some extent because it gets reported a lot, I guess. And yeah, so it's like I can't do certain things that other accounts would be able to do, I think. So like, so that my only, like, I can't set up like the super follow, I don't think. I think that's why. I probably wouldn't be able to get verified because of that. Stuff like that. I don't know. So, but so I think that they allowed me to add the tips feature today, and I looked at what it was, and the only thing that it allows you to do is set up PayPal. No, sorry, a GoFundMe, which I'm not. I don't know. That might be stretching it. And then what was the third one? Oh yeah, like Patreon or something like that. So. But I don't know. So it's basically because I'm just, it's just a joking thing. But like, it's like a very half-assed app integration kind of thing. So yeah.
Well, the important thing is your love is fine, but please send money.
Sure. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
People did send me a bit today, but it was just like joke amounts basically. So yeah, I mean, maybe nice to them, but like, I don't know, it was like the minimum amount I think you can send or something. So yeah,
we'll just watch in 10 years. If you hold on to it, it'll be like $10 million or something,
Sure. Yeah.
Well, that's what people used to do, right? Is they'd kind of joke tip people in Dogecoin because it was worth essentially nothing.
Yeah.
And then but at a certain point, it's worth like 80 cents or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now it's like 20, and I think it's probably heading back down to like 8 cents or so. Which is still good. Like if you bought it when it was nothing, I mean, even if you sell it at 8, that's pretty good.
Yeah, if you bought it at nothing, that's an infinity % gain.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people can mine Dogecoin as well. It's merge mined with Litecoin, so it's not hard to just crank out Doge bucks.
I see. Yeah, well, I thought that was why it was supposed to be worthless, is because they're too easy to get.
Yeah, but enough money just flooded into it. Anyway, next question is also for Don. Does Don have anything insightful to say about struggling with male pattern baldness as a young man in the image-focused world of today?
It's funny. This actually has never really bothered me, just because it's like pretty low down the list of grievances and ailments I have. So it's never really. I don't know. It's not that bad of a thing for me personally, but like it's I think it was all 100% caused by hormonal changes or something like that from gaining weight or something like that too. So it is kind of like oh, that sucks kind of thing. But like I don't know. To be honest, I had no idea that people sort of dwell on a lot of that body stuff to the extent that they do until I started using like Twitter and stuff like that, because people make jokes constantly about that kind of stuff, or like insult people's appearance and stuff like that in different ways and stuff. And it's one of those things that you go, oh, wait a minute, they care, like people complaining about men being short and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh man, I didn't even know that was like a huge thing or whatever kind of thing. So stuff like that. So yeah.
And it sort of like has made it a much more of a reality than it was. Like it was probably a very minor thing, and then because it's like online sort of spreads the virus, then people start to think it's a real thing, and men start to like get concerned about certain things, and then women start to like think of this as like, I don't want a man who's shorter than this height, and like have like, I don't know, like you see screenshots of like really dumb stuff like that.
Yeah, well, like the dating apps especially, it gets so when people just show up in front of you like that as just like options, you get real petty about how you categorize. Like
Sure.
in real life, if you like somebody, you just like them. But when it's like you start thinking about what you want, it's like, okay, well, I want them to be 6'1" and blonde hair, and and you
Yeah.
can do it.
Sure. Yeah. And although I did get one tweet I saw about myself a little while ago was someone said his appearance is part of his joke or something like that, and then they said it as if like I look a certain way because I think it's funny, and I had to like think for a minute if that was true. I was like, is that the case? Do I think it's like funny to look like a goofball or something like that? And then I don't know. I'm still sort of undecided on that. So yeah.
I think comedy is funnier when done by schlubs.
Yeah, for sure.
That's something that irritates me about the hot people of comedy in Marvel movies today.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But can I give my opinion as a fellow bald man?
Sure.
In fact, as a bald man who is trying to do very image-focused things, it can be rough sometimes. I'm bald and I'm also very pale. I would always know when I'd be in a shot when I was doing like background work because the makeup lady would come over and powder down my bald head so I didn't shine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it really makes you feel like, well. But the biggest thing I would say is if you got a decent looking head, just shave the damn thing.
Yeah.
It looks so much better.
I can't personally at this point, really, I don't think, because until I lose some weight. Because if I have it too short, the hair too short, it doesn't look good. It looks like I'm ill. So that is the so I don't know. I got to be careful about that. But like I don't know.
It's a little bit of maintenance involved with that too, right? Like you kind of have to consistently keep it short. Like it just like is much more noticeable if it just grows a little bit, right? So if like you're trying to keep it just real bald.
Yeah, I gotta shave every day. I just shave in the shower. It's pretty quick at this point, but yeah, it's more work.
Yeah.
Now the pro is I haven't had to pay for a haircut in like a decade.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I also cut my own hair, but I don't shave it completely. I just kind of get it pretty short. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. The funny thing is that it used to be the case that when I was in my early 20s and stuff, when I can look at myself now and like in a picture and be like, oh man, like I was pretty good looking at the time and stuff like that kind of thing. At the time, I thought I was like the ugliest schlub idiot kind of thing or something like that. Like I had a very, very negative opinion about myself, even though I can objectively look at pictures of myself back then when I was more thin and stuff and be like, oh man, I looked pretty good. And then now I'm like, well, whatever. It's just, that's life kind of thing. I'll work on it a bit here and there and stuff, but like, I'm not going to base my, whole mood on it or something like that. So, yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next one here. The question is, would incels have been happier if they were born asexual? And I think, like, who wouldn't, right? What has sex done for anybody? What good has sex ever done?
Big Kev is actually, I think, has the opposite opinion of you on this. So,
What, I think sex is good?
yeah.
Resolved. Sex is fun.
Yeah.
I think the incel thing in particular is so much just a cultural thing. I don't think having sex or not having sex really has any bearing on their life or how it is. It's just people who feel very on the outside and very marginalized and are having a very tough time in that way. And this is kind of the thing they've sucked on to, that they can be like, this is what's wrong with me. This is what's wrong with the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
For sure.
What about asexuality? Do you think that's real? let's drill down to every identity and give a yes or no. No.
Sure. Let's start at the A's and work to whatever starts with the Z.
Sure.
Do I think asexuality is real? I think there's definitely people who are like not very sexual.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I think all sexuality is fake. I think all these things like these isms and stuff are all kind of like they're just like labels, you know. I know this is probably very trite, but that's kind of how I feel about it. Like it's there are certain things like that. There's patterns, you know, that you can notice, but that doesn't like mean that it's like something in your genetic code that's like you're an asexual, you have the gene for it or something. It's just like a behavioral type deal, you know.
That's actually something I could talk about a lot, which we shouldn't because we're right at the end here. But yeah, I think a lot of I think you know, the lesbian and gay movement had to go into kind of gay essentialism to gain that approval, you know, in America. But I don't think that's always true for everybody. You know, all that Kinsey scale type of stuff. I think there's a lot of variability for people.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, it's more like an identity thing. Like if it becomes sort of like a subculture, then that has a, in a weird way, it's like more real because it's based on purely just social dynamics and stuff. So it's like that kind of makes more sense. There's no like asexual community that I'm aware of the way that there's like a gay community, you know?
Yeah, I think there's like some online like Tumblr-y TikTok stuff, but yeah, I don't think they're really part of like the gay community or the kink community or that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Don?
Yeah, there is actually a large sort of contingent, not large, but like you see a lot of it online now as like part of the sort of like Tumblr refugee stuff, where it's like people have made it like there's like whole big debates about this kind of stuff, and it's very, very strange. I don't know. I see some of it because of like some of the hateful people we know share stuff that's funny, and it's it's very, very, it's strange to see how articulated it is, like in terms of like, there's whole, I don't know, like subcultures around this kind of stuff, and it seems strange because it seems like the same kind of thing to some extent as like the incel kind of stuff, where it's like it's almost like the inverse of it or something like that in its own way. It's like, okay, well, we're queer because we're asexual and stuff. I don't know. Again, it's like if you want to make that part of your identity and stuff, that's 100% fine with me. I don't, it's not like I don't know, pitchforks or anything like that. It's just that it's a very, very strange development. I don't know. I feel very old now. That's all I'll say. I just feel like I don't know. Well, time is passing me by.
A lot of it's like power stuff, right? Like you gotta kind of find your own niche in those communities, and if you're your own thing, that gives you a different status than if you're kind of subsumed or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So should we wrap up with the next one here?
Sure.
Does that sound okay? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So last one for today. This is, sorry, I'm new to this podcast. Could you please explain, again, if it has already been explained, why Tom and his wife, who are two white people, are LARPing as Muslims? Well, so I work for the CIA, and part of my assignment is to infiltrate the left and try to undermine international socialism. And so my particular assignment is to do this through the guise of a white convert. So, yeah, it's all part of my undercover plan here.
I think you would be particularly badly suited for that kind of job because people would probably like tell you. I mean, okay. Yeah, people would probably tell you stuff like they're like, yeah, we're going to blow up this building or something like that. And you'd probably be like, yeah, well, if you got to do it, you got to do it, kind of thing. Or like it wouldn't like register to you as like a big deal or something like that. You'd be like, yeah, that's life, folks, kind of thing or something. I don't know, like, yeah. You just forget to report stuff because you'd be like, yeah, that guy's blowing up a building. I don't know.
Yeah,
seems like a weird thing to do.
They keep promoting me up, like instead of firing me, they just keep promoting me. So now I'm
Sure.
like chief of police. It's crazy.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, so hope that clears things up. Thanks for coming on, Big Kev.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on again, and it was good chatting to you. I'm glad that you seem to be doing well in a lot of different areas and stuff. So I don't know. That's good to see. And I don't know. We'll have to. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I'm like the human cat. I always land on my feet.
Sure. Yeah, and we'll have to meet up one day in New York or something like that. I don't know. Alaska seems more iffy. It's sort of a hike, but like.
Hey, it's
know.
right next to
Yeah.
Canada.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
On the other side of the continent, but.
Sure. Cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. So if you enjoyed this episode of You Can't Win and you'd like a second one every week, you can get that by subscribing to our Patreon. And you also get access to our Discord where you can chat with us and our lovely community. If you want to send us anonymous questions, you can go to our Twitter account at YouCan'tWinPod, and you'll find a link to the Curious Cat pin there. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.